Have you ever gone cliff diving? Do you remember the excitement you felt as you approached the edge? Do you remember the adrenaline rushing through your veins as you screamed on the way down, diving into the blue waters of a river or an ocean? Today, I would like to discuss a less appealing option, the corporate version of cliff diving, known as the glass cliff. Now, you may be asking yourself, what is the glass cliff? Hi, my name is Maggie, and I discuss different HR related matters as well as other stories. If you find this content appealing, please like, share, and follow for more. In order to understand the glass cliff, you need to first understand the glass ceiling. The glass ceiling is a more popular term in modern culture. It refers to these invisible barriers that women face when ascending to leadership roles. In the words of the first African female president, Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf,
once the glass ceiling has been broken, it can never be put back together.
And even after shattering the glass ceiling, there is the less appealing option of now encountering something known as the glass cliff. The glass cliff is a term coined by two British professors in 2005 after their research found that most companies appointing women to their boards or senior leadership positions had experienced consistently bad performance for at least the last 5 months. Glass cliffs exist in politics as well. As a matter of fact, some of the examples that I would like to show you today are actually those of female politicians from different countries, mostly African. I'm biased, to be honest. Bear with me. The first example I would like to show you today is that of the shortest serving Prime Minister of the UK, Liz Truss. Her tenure began on the 6th of September in 2022, and only 50 days later, she rendered in her resignation. Now, you may ask yourself, how is she an example of a glass cliff? Well, she took the country post-Brexit, very soon post-Brexit, that is, she experienced the death of a beloved, long-serving monarch. She faced challenges in terms of who to trust during her tenure, as well as some questionable policies. Towards the end of her tenure, it was estimated, according to the Washington Post, that she was almost as unpopular as the Russian leader Vladimir Putin among the UK population. Marissa Mayer is another example of the glass cliff. She was the CEO of Yahoo and ascended to this position in 2012, soon after Yahoo lost the majority of market share to Google. Mayer faced numerous obstacles, including revenue market share, as well as criticism for her management decisions.
Yahoo CEO Marissa Mayer says she hopes to be with the company at this time next year. Mayer made headlines when she left her job at Google in 2012 to head Yahoo. It made her one of the most prominent women in Silicon Valley. Expectations were high. In 2014, Vanity Fair even called her Yahoo's geek goddess. But now questions over her leadership and the direction of the country are clouding Yahoo's future. The company is expected to cut hundreds of jobs and may be exploring a possible sell. I spoke with her last night on my PBS program about what had gone wrong and what she could do to fix it.
Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is a perfect example of the glass cliff phenomenon. President Sirleaf was elected president in 2005 after Liberia had gone through 14 years of civil war.
When I assumed the presidency of Liberia in January 2006, we faced the tremendous challenges of a post-conflict nation: collapsed economy, destroyed infrastructure, dysfunctional institutions, enormous debt, bloated civil service.
When Sirleaf was elected to her position as a president, she managed to turn around the economy, lift the UN sanctions, and basically get Liberia to function again as a country. However, she was criticized about problems that she was unable to tackle, such as corruption, nepotism.
I'm very happy with what I was able to do.
When you became president in 2005, you pledged a war on corruption. You called it, quote, a national cancer and, quote, public enemy number one. But then you yourself were hit with a variety of scandals, your government, and you later said you, quote, underestimated the cultural roots of corruption. But surely Liberian culture isn't to blame for corruption. Liberian politicians, such as yourself and others, are to blame for corruption.
Well, let me tell you, politicians are part of the culture.
Samia Suluhu Hassan, the Tanzanian president who was sworn in 2021 after the death of her predecessor, President John Pombe Magufuli. She inherited the country in the middle of a global pandemic. The country was heavy hit by the pandemic, especially given that the tourism sector is one of the biggest revenue generators.
Samia Suluhu Hassan, naapa kwamba nitakuwa mwaminifu kwa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Mimi Samia Suluhu Hassan naapa kwamba nitatenda kazi zangu za urais.
Soon after being sworn in, Mama Samia faced a number of challenges, including lack of support from leaders who were expected to stand behind her and support her transition during these challenging times. One of the first people to disappoint her was Job Ndugai, the parliamentary speaker of the country, the parliamentary speaker of the time.
Parliamentary Speaker Job Ndugai has resigned this days after clashing with the president over foreign debt. The speaker said his resignation was a personal and voluntary decision taken in the interests of the nation. But it came after he said that Tanzania was at risk of being auctioned off following President Samia Suluhu Hassan's announcement of a new loan from the International Monetary Fund.
Now, this statement that he made publicly clearly showed that he undermined the president. He issued an apology prior to resigning, however, it was not received well. Now, Job Ndugai has an interesting history with female leaders.
Trousers that were too tight or not too tight for a parliamentary session is an issue that has caused an uproar in Tanzania this week. The WildF NGO says it is appalled by the behavior and action of a male MP who alleged a female colleague was ridiculing the parliament because of what she was wearing. Condesta Sichwale, the female lawmaker, was expelled from the parliament this week for her inappropriate clothing. She was forced to change her outfit in order to be allowed back in. Hussein Amar, the male MP who raised the issue, argued that the parliament was a reflection of society, referring to some regulations of the parliament's rules forbidding female legislators from wearing tight jeans. Speaker John Ndugai instructed Condesta to go change then return, quoting the parliamentary rules which allow women to wear trousers, but the clothes should not be tight-fitting. He also ordered chamber orderlies to refuse access to anyone who was dressed inappropriately.
From now on, any MP who doesn't dress appropriately should not be allowed. They'll be asked to go and change. This isn't the first complaint that we have received. Some are adults, so I don't know what they are looking for when they dress up like this. Let's try to abide by our regulations, please. Looking at our rules and traditions, women need to abide even more.
As one of the country's biggest women's rights NGOs, WildF is looking to take legal action against Mr. Amar to help protect female leaders in the future. Fellow members of Parliament Stella Manyanya and Jacqueline Gonyani have branded the event as discriminatory and unfair. This is not the first incident of this nature. In 2018, the Speaker of Tanzania's National Assembly, Job Ndugai, banned women MPs with false eyelashes and false fingernails from entering the parliament. Daniel Kijo, SABC, Dar es Salaam.
Well, according to Mastering Executive Transitions by Navid Nazemian, there is a 30 to 40% chance of an executive transition failing within the first 18 months. Now, within the same risky bracket of failure that could impact a leader so much that they either never get a similar position or their career never recovers depending on the failure, there is another gap of 13 to 22% gap in support based on the gender of this executive, which basically means that women receive less mentorship and less support when ascending to such roles. The seclusion of women in leadership positions can actually accelerate the rate of favorability or nepotism in the woman's tenure. For example, Liz Truss, the shortest serving UK Prime Minister, actually opted to only select leaders who supported her campaign for parliamentary seats. This made her come off as a vindictive person and therefore enforced her unpopularity among the general public. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf elected her sons in charge of some important Liberian national companies, such as the National Oil Company, and when they failed, and one of them eventually got persecuted by the court, she was in the hot seat about the nepotism that was evident during her tenure. Now, I am not going to justify the bad decisions that she made or the fact that she elected her sons for such posts. What I'm going to, and this is purely off of speculation, I would say that if you don't have people that you can trust, you will most likely go for the people that you know, for the people who are familiar to you. Therefore, it can be speculated that sometimes cases of nepotism or favoritism when it comes to female leaders are actually based on the fact that they lack support and they lack people that they can trust. So they will look around and try to find any and everyone that they feel like will support them in this important transition or in this new role that they're assuming. Another reason as to why women are more likely to accept leadership positions that are more volatile is because women often don't put themselves forward as readily as their male counterparts when it comes to job search or when it comes to vying for leadership positions. Men are typically more likely to speak up for themselves. I will give an example of this 2017 interview, should I call it an interview? This was supposed to be a debate that featured all the candidates who vied for the governor's seat of Nairobi, but only 2 ended up showing up. Now, as much as this, I would love to make an entire video purely based on the dumpster fire that this debate was, I would like to show you how one of the candidates, known as Miguna, speaks up for himself when the host introduces him in a manner that he does not like, as opposed to his female counterpart, Esther Passaris, who takes the introduction, as negative as it is, on the chin.
So, on the far end, you know him, former personal assistant to the, what was it? What were you?
A senior advisor to the Prime Minister.
Former senior advisor to the former Prime Minister.
Yes.
He's a solicitor and a
Unless
barrister.
you want to be a cartel.
Author of 2 books, Peeling Back the Mask and Kidneys for the King. Practices law in Canada right now, but comes to Kenya every now and then. And when he does show up, you know he's got to come on the bench. He's been saying to no end that he's running for governor of Nairobi. And he has a support base, especially on social media. Will it translate on the ground? The only person who's dared to meet him face to face, Mama Supu, the MD of Adopt a Light. She ran for a couple of offices in Nairobi unsuccessfully, but she wants to run for governor. As opposed to Nairobi Women's Rep, Benjin Dolo, she wants to be governor of Nairobi County. Let me ask you a question. By the end of the show, we're going to ask, who do you think will make the best governor of Nairobi? Tell us your choice.
Furthermore, men are known to be more demanding, and they would typically ask for things that may not necessarily be present in the package, such as the corner office, a second personal assistant, or, as in the case of Jeff Immelt, who saw the shares of GE plummet by 30%, he had an empty jet follow his corporate jet just in case there was a delay with his primary jet. Another reason is that there is an issue known as identification with your leader. So basically, studies have found that when people do not identify on a certain level with their leader, they're less likely to perform well. Now, what does this mean? This means that if a woman is appointed to a position of leadership in a male-dominated field or in a male-dominated arena, so to speak, this woman will face now a demoralized population of men because they cannot identify with her or they do not see themselves in her. Therefore, their performance will automatically become decreased. Now, even the best leader cannot steer around a team that does not identify with them. Another very interesting reason, in my opinion, would be that female leaders, more often than not, tend to get attacked on a personal level.
She emerged from nowhere that is she Mama Supu. She's selling beauty. She thinks beauty gives you credibility and integrity to go for leadership.
They're more likely to face personal scrutiny, embarrassment, and even public insults.
At the Pentagon House, in the impending days when Raila's victory was almost certain, you announced to the gathering that after Raila is inaugurated, you will take 30 days sex holiday in Seychelles. A woman who has absolutely no integrity, a socialite bimbo, whose only claim to fame is because she is looking for billionaire sponsors.
Why is this an important conversation, you may ask? Well, the glass cliff is an important concept to understand and navigate because more often than not, the loss of one is a loss for all. So when one woman is placed in a disadvantageous position and inevitably fails to perform, then this failure is disproportionately blamed solely on her, and therefore it perpetuates the stereotype that some people, or it perpetuates the notion that some people have that women are not good leaders, or women are simply too emotional to lead, or women are just unable to lead, or whatever other stereotype there may be about women in leadership, which affects negatively anyone who is to follow in this individual's footsteps or anyone who aspires to be her. High reward and high loss stakes. So the game is rigged, all right? From the get-go, a glass cliff basically means that if you succeed, you are average, you're nothing exceptional. But if you do not succeed, that means that you are utterly and completely incapable. I don't think many people would agree to play a game that implied they had a 90% chance of losing, right? The glass cliff, more often than not, puts one under high pressure to represent their gender or race for the underrepresented minorities, whereby any misstep can be publicized in such a way that it reflects not only on you, but on your community, gender, or race as well. This is a lot of pressure for one person to carry, and I would like to remind you of the Obamas. When Obama was a president, his children could barely step out of the White House and be children. Those girls had to behave 24/7, or there was a paparazzi clicking pictures in their face. The prevailing gender stereotypes. Women are more often than not confined to certain boxes that people feel comfortable with viewing women in. For example, when Esther Passaris inevitably dropped out of her bid for governor of Nairobi, a lot of people voted that she should have been vying for Nairobi Women's Rep. Women are generally expected to be more motherly and nurturing, something that male leaders are never expected to be. Nobody expects a male leader to act as their father. However, female leaders are expected to act as mothers. As a matter of fact, the nickname of the Tanzanian president is Mama, and her slogans would be something like, "I stand with Mama." Now, what was the nickname of her predecessor, you may ask? The Bulldozer. What was the nickname of the first Tanzanian president? Mwalimu, which translates to teacher. Now, why are women confined to being mothers? Why do people expect women to be nurturing and soft and motherly? I don't think this is a realistic expectation. There is a high need for empowerment and advocacy. Recognizing the glass cliff and its impact on women is important in order to challenge discriminatory practices in the workplace. For example, my personal struggle would be that I more often than not speak very softly. So I have to consciously force myself to assert more energy and more power to my voice, to be more audible. Now, for women, I would say this should be a wake-up call. We need to participate more. We need to more readily put ourselves forward for leadership positions. Apply for that job, even if you don't feel qualified. Go for it. Because men accept praise more readily and credit it to intrinsic values such as personality or their hard work, while women, more often than not, when asked how they ascended to a certain position, would credit it to external factors such as, "Oh, I had great mentors," or chance, or luck. Even President Samia herself said in her interview,
I've never imagined that. It's just because of our constitution that I've become a president, but I never imagined it. And there was a time in 2020 when they said I would contest for Zanzibar presidency. And I said, no, I'm not interested. So I've never imagined to be a president. It's just, it came by chance because of our constitution, but I'm ready to bear the burden, yeah.
So what would I tell female leaders or women who look forward to stepping into a new leadership role? First of all, assess the situation and be disillusioned about the fact that it could actually be a glass cliff. From then on, I would say, if you accept the position, try to do your best. And the rest, in the words of my favorite Kenyan musician, Bien, is vibes and inshallah.
On that note,